Okay, so we're going to quickly go through this. I didn't realize that you lived here. I saw you online. Some of these cool blogs that I read to find out what people who are thinking the way we think write about. And then here's this Melissa. And then I find out that you're here. So, and I'm not sure any of us are really aware of all the stuff that you're doing, but I know Melissa is a chiropractor with kids, active, all the stuff that we do, and pays attention to politics. But her approach to changing the world is something more of us need to do. And so I want to introduce you to Melissa Clouthier. Please welcome Melissa.
Thanks, Julie. That feels like a little bit much. I've been here in the Woodlands for 16 years, and I've got kids in the public school, high school, all the way down to elementary school. We have a caboose, and we practice in Panther Creek, so we are definitely local and have been for quite some time. I'm going to tell you a little bit before I get to what I have done politically. I'm going to tell you about my history, and that'll explain a little bit why I got into what I'm doing. I grew up in Michigan. I'm a GM brat. My family motto was literally the Chevrolet motto: baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet. That was it. And both sides of my family were farmers. I had cattle farmers on the one side, dairy farmers on the other, not ranchers. There would be ranchers in Texas. In Michigan, farmers. I lived all over the state. My dad moved with his job, and so I've lived in Detroit, I've lived in Flint, I've lived in Lansing, I've lived in Grand Rapids. I've lived all over, and I know what liberalism does, because I lived in Michigan and I saw it destroy the state. I saw it destroy the cities that I loved, and I saw it destroy the state that I loved. And I saw it destroy the people, you know, a whole class of people. There's a whole lot of people in Michigan who never got out, who are still struggling there, trying to make it, and they don't even know, you know, what it could be like. Unlike here in Texas, where we see everything growing and everything. Then I lived in Southern California, and I endured the sun, the taxes, earthquakes. That did it for me. I can take a hurricane, but I cannot take an earthquake. And I saw, while I was there, the housing market crash, and I saw people walk away from their house and leave their keys on their doorstep. Or in one case, a friend just gave the keys to another friend because he knew he couldn't sell the house. And then I lived in upstate New York, another liberal bastion. I saw IBM die when I lived up there. I saw Xerox die. I saw manufacturing and textiles leave the Finger Lakes region. I saw Republicans, my mother-in-law, talk about a living wage. Oh yes, that was the kind of Republican that's up in New York. And so, you know, over and over again, I saw what liberalism did to families individually, to communities, and to cities and to whole states. It creates debt. It creates a poverty not only literal but of mind, and it stifles creativity, it stifles culture, it stifles everything good and decent. And people, their lives shrink and they don't even know it. Their opportunities shrink, they're spending so much in taxes, they can't do things for their children. I've got family in both Michigan and in New York. The taxation in New York is so astonishing, we couldn't even fathom it here. And so we looked around, my husband and I, after we finished chiropractic college, where we wanted to live. We looked in Colorado, we looked in Arizona, and we looked in Texas. And I realized after Arizona I wanted water. And Colorado made me nervous after having lived through California. I didn't want to live somewhere where there just didn't seem to be enough manufacturing. And believe it or not, I came to Houston and I saw the manufacturing and I saw the sunshine. You know, look at me now. People, I am a bad excuse for a Michigander. Let me just tell you, I'm like freezing. It's like warm for up there. And so no income tax. So we started a business, and I was busy with that for years, and then kids, you know. And I didn't really pay attention to politics much. I was just happy to be in a state and be in a place where people thought like me, where every conversation wasn't an argument, like in upstate New York, or in Michigan, or California, where I was the odd man out, and looking around at the insanity and seeing more of it repeated. So it was just a relief to be down here, and then 9/11 happened, and I started paying attention a little bit more. And when my youngest was born in 2005, I was at home, and I started blogging. Everybody was talking about a blog. I was like, what's this blogging? I'll try it, you know, sitting around with a baby and a computer. Had nothing better to do. And I started writing about business stuff was how I started, but I couldn't, you know, I come from a family of screamers, you know, they scream at the TV. I can't believe it! Ah! You know, that ref sucks, you know. Lions fan, big Lions fan from Michigan, everybody's into sports. Because there's nothing else now. It's a beautiful state, it's just terrible what has been done. But anyway, so I decided to, you know, blog and whatever, and I started blogging politically, started getting linked, started doing some freelance writing, and went to an Americans for Prosperity Write Online conference over in Austin. And I was new, I didn't know anybody. I'm mom. I was mom going over on an exciting weekend to a hotel for free. I was very excited. And so I go over there and I'm meeting all these very important people, you know, standing there and listening to these conversations. There's people from Hollywood and people from Washington, D.C., and Heritage Foundation, all these very important people. Here I am. And listening, and I got on Twitter that weekend, Dave Almasy, he did the internet and social media for President Bush, was there, and he talked about social media was just starting. So I pestered him, because I'm the pesterer, and said, you have to show me how to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. And so he was like, oh, it's no big deal, you can do this. So I started a Twitter account and just looked at it for months, because I was completely intimidated. I didn't know what I was doing, and I couldn't understand it, and so I just watched. I didn't really much, I still don't, but like Facebook, and so I just watched it, you know. Finally, over Thanksgiving, I thought, I think this was 2006 or so, it's like, I need to really learn this. And so I did. And I got it. I was like, oh my goodness, we can do an end around on the media. We don't have to wait and listen to what they say. We can see news, we can report it, and we don't have to listen to their perspective. And when they're stupid, all the time, it's a full-time job, we can correct the record right there, and we can talk to the writer and say something to them. And once I got it, I was like, this is awesome. Okay, so I had been doing that. Meanwhile, on the background of all of this, let's see what year it was. Shortly thereafter, I went to CPAC for the first time, and it was the year that Romney conceded to big winner John McCain. And that was stellar. And literally, I nearly bumped into Mitt Romney, and kind of had a funny interaction with him as he was walking by the bloggers row. He turned around and bumped into me, and I had my phone. I was like, this is Mitt Romney, I'm gonna take a picture. And he went like this. Like, he was like walking along, and I went, you know, turned it on for my little picture. I was like, oh, that guy's kind of, whatever. Okay, so that was the year, and it was completely depressing. It was a depressing CPAC. And so there was this one small booth in the corner of CPAC with a guy, a consultant guy, who had rebuilt the party. And I don't know if you guys remember when the whole lights out thing happened in the House, and they were fighting, and oh, it was a mess, and keep the lights on, and all that nonsense. Well, there was, here in Harris County, a meeting for people to rebuild the party, because everybody was sick to death of the Republicans. And there were about 10 of us. We met at a restaurant / bar thing, maybe 15. And that became the future Tea Party down in Houston, the Houston Tea Party, which eventually broke up, as all tea parties must do, kind of like churches, you know. You guys all know the joke on the island, there were 3 buildings, 1 house, and 2 churches, and what are those buildings? Well, that's the church I go to now, that's the church I used to go to. Anyway, that's how the Tea Party is, you know, break up and break up. But anyway, so when we went down to those meetings, I went to a lot of tea parties, and I went to the national tea parties. And who did I keep seeing? Andrew Breitbart, because he was at everything too. And I was at a tea party out in DC, and standing there with all the major media, and I was standing there with my phone, with my Ustream account, and I was recording it, and I had 10,000 people watching. And the guy next to me, I had the NBC guys and the Fox guys next to me, because I was in with the press, and they said, hey, how many people are watching? And I told them, they're like, I was like, yeah. You guys would actually get some ratings if you turned it on. You have way more viewers, but nope, they didn't want to give it. All they were there for, all the media was there for, was if somebody made a mistake, then they would have a clip of it, and that would go on the evening news. That's it. So I stood there with my arm shaking all day long, and people who couldn't make it and wanted to hear what all these awesome speakers said could hear. And so while I haven't been part of the Tea Party, I've been recording it and been helping as much as I can in other ways. I'm kind of obsessive, and I knew that if I ever got involved in the actual organization, I'd be lost to everything else. And I had to make a decision. Thankfully, in Montgomery County, see, the tea parties are awesome, all right? Harris County was where I was really concerned about, and that's where I went to all the tea parties originally. And I've been to a bunch here too. I mean, I've been in a lot of tea parties, let me just say that, all over. But when I first started, I started in Harris County because it was where I was most concerned. Okay? And it's where I'm still most concerned. If we lose in Texas, if we lose West Harris County, we lose the state. We lose the state, we lose the country. It's that critical. And that brings me to what I've been doing. So Andrew asked me to do media for his book. Andrew, I've never done media for a book before. Ah, you can do it, Melissa. Okay, Andrew. All right. He was a friend, so I helped him. And from there, I became a dirty consultant. I'm sorry. From there, different people hired me to help them do their media for different things. And I've been very fortunate to work for things and causes I actually believe in. I haven't had to sell my soul for something I don't. And I've been kind of picky anyway about who I work with and what I'll work on. But I've been very fortunate. In the last election cycle, Americans for Prosperity hired me, and I did their social media and messaging online in all the swing states. And I learned a lot. What I learned though, let me just make sure, okay, yeah. I could talk to you about what we on our side did wrong, but that would take all night. What I think is more important is to understand how the left works and what we can do to stop it. Because I think I've seen some fundamental misunderstanding in how they operate, why they operate, and what works. And I got to see it up close and personal because for every move we made on our side, there were 5 people on the other side making a counter move. So there's 3 things that they do on the left. 3 things that they always, always do. And the 4th for good measure. 1 is they control information. I'm going to go through these 3 points and then I'm going to go back and explain it. 2, they build a pyramid of structural networks, both in person and online. 3, they share data with everyone. Okay, so the first thing they do is they control the information. How do they control information? Well, they buy newspapers. Let's just talk in Texas. In Texas, the Texas Tribune moved in a couple of years ago into Austin. They are bought and paid for by the left, funded, fully funded, and they have a partnership agreement with the New York Times. Now, sometimes they're fair. They have to be fair because it suits their purpose to be kind of mild-mannered. However, they're around and they're there because when something happens on the left that needs to be amplified, they do it. Always. Not some of the time, not part of the time, not 3/4 of the time. If there is a story that benefits the left, they always do it. And it's owned and paid for by the left. Okay? We don't do that on the right. We're too busy fighting amongst ourselves, and we also spend our money like idiots. That's another thing. All right, so they control the information. They hire bloggers. Right now there's a blogger, well, not right now, it's out of session, but when we're in session, the left has a blogger sitting in there like a Buddha, typing everything out and informing the left about what is going on. Always, every day. I don't even think he takes a potty break. And if you don't think that that affects what happens on the floor, and if you don't think that that doesn't affect about how news is perceived and how the mainstream media interprets what's happened on the floor of the House and in the Senate, crazy. Information is power, and they use that information. And it is a small investment. It's a small investment. Have somebody sitting in there cranking out constant stories about what's going on. All the little jibber jabber behind the scenes, and so they're always perfectly informed about what's going on. They hire people to monitor the opposition. I just saw, and I can't remember what race it was, but the number of people they have following the opposition candidates around. This is just the way they do it. Not part of the time, not some of the time, all of the time. So they follow people around. Then what happens? They see something that's crazy. They send it to the blogger, they send it to the media. So this small mistake one of our candidates makes, everybody sees immediately. Why? Because they own the media. Not figuratively, they actually own it. And then when it gets in a place like the Texas Tribune, the Austin American-Statesman, the Houston Chronicle, everybody picks it up because it's legit. And if it's a big enough story that makes somebody look bad enough, it'll end up in the New York Times. Boom, boom, boom. And what is it Winston Churchill said? A lie gets around the world before the truth gets its pants on. That's what happens. Okay. Now, this is another thing that they do, controlling the information. They hire people online. They don't have volunteers, they have people, paid hordes of mindless drones, watching Steve Post's Facebook page, watching every Americans for Prosperity page, watching every Tea Party page, watching all of us all the time. They have people hired. I didn't think so because it sounds narcissistic and conspiratorial, but they have people paid to follow me and just to bug me when I'm getting too much on a roll, trying to slow my roll. I didn't think that's what was happening, and then I caught a bunch, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is actually systematic. Because I saw the same people who harassed, they have people assigned to Texas, and when they weren't bugging me, I saw them all jump over when Wendy Davis was on the floor, and I was like, holy cow, this is systematic and organized. These are the same 3 people who bug me every day. And now they're over there and they're making screeching in the Twitter feed, and makes it seem like 1 million people are for, aborting babies as they crown. Anyway, and then so they are in comment sections, they are trolling, and wherever you aren't, they are. And then they build organization. Now I don't know how much you've looked into how they operate, but imagine Amway or any MLM. They have a nice structure. where you're responsible for this many people, usually around 6. You call them, there's a phone tree, they call you, they will drive you to vote. There is a structure in place, and then they measure everything. So they have, say, a tea party for them, they have a big gathering, they have Wendy Davis come out, and they are registering every person there to vote. If it's near voting time and it's early voting, they bring buses and they cart your butt to vote. They don't count on you to do it, they take you there. And then they give you a card and tell you how to vote. Now there's nobody better in the country than Julie Turner when it comes to turning people out to vote and educating them. In fact, I don't even think, I'm in Montgomery, what does Julie say? I do what Julie says. I get the card and I do what Julie says. And I don't know, I can't even think of a case where I went, oh, I think Julie might be wrong. Anyway, so that's that, but they are, Julie's still counting on the fact that I get my butt in the car and drive to vote, okay? We can do that in Montgomery County. But in a lot of swing districts, we can't. We have to think the way the left thinks, and we have to make the barriers to entry to get into that voting booth as easy as possible. That might mean driving busloads of people to the voting booth to get them to vote after we just registered them at a big, nonpartisan looking gathering, where they can feel good about freedom. Woo-hoo! Okay, these people are the freedom vote. Boom, 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 they vote. Okay, so they control the information, they build a systematic army, and then they measure everything. They measure everything. They know what you're thinking before you think it. They've been doing predictive analysis. This is something the left has been doing for at least 6 years. It's getting more sophisticated as time goes on, but they are scooping up data every time you visit certain websites. They're seeing what you look at, they know who you are, and they're building these sophisticated profiles so they know what you're going to do before you even do it. Now, I mean, human beings are a lot more fickle than that, but if they have information on you, Google thinks, by the way, that I'm a middle-aged man interested in technological and political stuff and shopping at Amazon, which is all true, except for the man and middle-aged, well, kind of dude part, okay? I'm not 60 yet. Anyway, so the other thing, the fourth thing, the bonus thing, the left is okay with making mistakes. They will try crazy stuff just to try and see if it works. They'll do it with their email, they'll do it with their Twitter messaging. The kind of stuff that comes out of OFA's Barack Obama's account half the time is like embarrassing. They do not care. They're trying something to see what will happen. They're measuring the response. We need to be okay with making mistakes and trying again and trying something new. And they're very good at it. Now, what are their weaknesses? They organize around personalities. The left organizes around personalities. Well, that was fine with Barack Obama. It is not fine with Wendy Davis. Can I just say that she's the biggest gift to our movement that we've seen here. Thank you, Wendy. It was a big miscalculation, but it is part of their playbook. They organize around personalities, and the personality embodies the ideology. Now, the thing we need to know about Wendy Davis is not about winning. They know that she's not going to win. They know. So why are they running her? One, they're running her to fundraise. Good way, and keep hope alive if they can get Democrats to win. But the other thing is they know that if they introduce the idea that a Democrat can win, that they're planting a seed, not for now, maybe not even for 5 years from now, but the idea that it's possible. And once you have a belief that something is possible, you can start building toward it. One of the things that have frustrated me about Republicans is they have backed off in areas where we should still fight. You know, Steve's from upstate New York. We know how conservative people can be up there. You know how conservative people are in Michigan. I'm from there. It's winnable, but you have to fight. And you can't give up, and you can't write off whole sections of the country. We know it's winnable because Republicans have won in Wisconsin, they've won in Michigan, so it's possible. And I know that we're nonpartisan here, right? We're trying to have winning ideas. Well, winning ideas, there's certain ideas that are winners in these areas. Okay. The other weaknesses of the left is they're stupid. Like good commies, they're only as smart as the person above them. They are good soldiers, man, but if their leader is going right off the cliff, they will march right with them. Okay, and that's happened at times. That's to our advantage. We're more nimble. We're the thing that I love about the Tea Party is we're like an amoeba. We break apart, we build up again. You can't, you know, they try to hammer us down here. Well, that person speaks for the Tea Party, and everybody in the Tea Party just laughs because they know that person speaks for that person, but that person is in this part of the country, and the needs are different in every part of the country. Messaging can be tweaked and be more unique for what we need, and so that gives us a flexibility of mind and ideas that they just don't have on the left. What comes from the top is the same as at the bottom. Okay. Finally, their ideas on the left are not really that popular when people pay attention. And when people are distracted and they see the slick marketing and personalities, they forget what the ideas are. But the great thing about a slick personality yapping it about late-term abortion is that then people start actually paying attention to what she's talking about, and they think about it and they think, I don't want to. I knew that as soon as she opened her mouth that there was no way she could win back her Senate seat, let alone win the governorship. That the left didn't know that just speaks to some hubris. Okay, so what can we do to combat the left? How can we win? I am very concerned about the state of Texas. We should be leading in all ways. We have the resources, we have the philosophy. The Texas spirit is unique and wonderful. And I got here as fast as I could, everybody. I've been here 17 years and been the best 17 years of my life. I'm happy here. We need to invest in controlling the information and value that for its own right. We need to be more systematic in our organization. There needs to be 50 Julie Turners in the state of Texas and 50 Tea Parties just like this one right here across the state. And we need to be in areas that are not necessarily comfortable for us, because this is what the left is very good at. They will go anywhere where there's one person, and they will build off of that person. And we need to show people that freedom means freedom to help our fellow man, that it is compassionate at its very core, because we believe that every person can be their own boss and live a life they want to live. It's very empowering to be on the right. It's not so empowering to be on the left. So the message is there. We just need to get that message to the people and be willing to go everywhere where we're needed. And we have some people in the room who I'm really psyched about. Back at the back there, Kimberly Kay there, and Nick, they're with Americans for Prosperity. And I don't want to tell too much of the secret, but I've never been so encouraged about an organization's willingness to work with everybody in the state, I mean everybody, to build a structure, and not to take over structures or anything like that, but to facilitate. Because here's one thing that the left is very good at, and that's sharing information. Information is power. The data we gather is power. The lessons that you learn, the things that you know that work and don't work, there's no reason for someone across the state to try things that won't work. But that has to be shared. and there has to be a network to do it. And I'm really excited about that happening here in the state of Texas, because we need to defend our great state, and electing the right people makes a big difference. We need good conservatives who understand the values. I could say some things about some of our elected officials here in Texas who are Republicans. They might as well be Democrats for the laws that they pass and what they bring to the floor. And I'm not going to say names, but that's only because I'm being nice. Just look at my Twitter feed. I'm not so nice there. So I think the other thing is that we need to take smart risks and be willing to try new things. I think we have a luxury here in Texas that some other places, you know, there's less of a margin of error. We have a little bit of wiggle room to try things and to see what works and what doesn't, which is very exciting, all in the defense of our great state. So that's kind of some of the stuff that I've learned kind of doing what I've done. The strength of our country is, you know, being God-fearing, having strong families, having the freedom to follow your dreams and be who we are each, maximizing our each individual potential, and then we have a great country. And those are the things that make a difference. And you know, we have lots of people moving in here to Texas, and I want them to get that message so they understand why there's greatness here, why they have the freedom. Don't come here from California or Michigan or New York. Find a job because there's entrepreneurs here who are taking risks that they're not taking out anywhere else, and low taxation. Buying a beautiful house because you can actually afford one here. And then come in and vote for everything that doesn't work. So, anyway. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. I like to see, I'm from New York as well. I'm from Long Island, the other part of the state. And like you said, there are a lot of very good Republicans out there. However, I'm more concerned about the Republicans fighting the Republicans. But the Democrats, like you said, are really good at sticking together with a talking point, and they'll go off the cliff with it. It doesn't matter who or what they said, but this infighting has got to stop. And somebody throwing another Republican under the bus here in Texas, no names mentioned, is unacceptable. How do you get across to those elected officials who just have a lot of money? Let's face it, certain Republicans have a lot of money and they're not going to be defeated. What's your answer to something like that? And, you know.
I think there's some, and people will disagree with me, okay, on this. This is one of those things where it really depends on where you come down. My feeling is, if we win the battle, and then we elect officials who are Republicans, but we get the Department of Homeland Security, we get Medicare Part D, we get an expanded state, we get No Child Left Behind, we get things like Common Core. I'm sorry, that's not a win to me. A win to me is a smaller government, is a less intrusive government, and all the things that the GOP's platform is supposedly on. Part of the problem is that voters who have gone independent don't believe us, don't believe the GOP anymore. And so we've got to win that battle. Now, I think that a lot of this bloodletting that we're seeing now is something that should have happened in 2008. But Obamacare galvanized the GOP. And so everybody came together, the Tea Party started, and we had that huge whooshing election in 2010. But we really didn't deserve to win, because we hadn't done the soul searching that was needed to be done and changed in heart and mind in the party. People hadn't really gotten the message of why the President Bush and the GOP in general was just so rejected. Keep in mind, we lost in 2006, we lost in 2008, we won in 2010 in the House, and then we lost in 2012. So we are just now kind of trying to get the lessons, and so you have a more small government, libertarianish, Ted Cruz-ish, Mike Lee, group, and then you have the bigger interests who have a lot to gain by keeping the things the way they've always been. I mean, this latest immigration fight, I don't care where you come down on it, from just a purely political perspective, was the dumbest idea I had ever heard. I don't care if you're for it or against it, and there's arguments to be made all along the spectrum. But when you're winning, you don't bring up something that's going to undermine the base of your own party. So some of us were just stupid. It's the Republicans. Any other questions?
I may disagree with you, but I'm not quite sure yet. But when somebody, I wouldn't have voted if I had choice for either candidate that has run as a Republican presidential candidate, because they weren't conservative enough. They were going to do things that I thought was just Democrat-like, and I had to bite the bullet. And then I think the reason Romney lost was because a lot of people like me just said, hey, I'm just not voting. And it was those people sitting out. So shouldn't we be having this battle? I mean, this is when we're supposed to be doing it.
Right,
I don't
I actually
understand
think
your
we need
your
to have
point.
the battle. But I'm also one of the, I'm more pragmatic too. When it comes down to it, you know, the family screamers that I told you about, they voted for Perot, which means they voted for Clinton.
Right.
And so when it comes down to it, if I have a choice between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, even though I was writing up a blue streak years ago saying Mitt Romney is the wrong choice, he will never win. There were a lot of people who thought that he would. I just knew that he would not, and I knew he wouldn't sell in the Midwest. And after doing messaging in the Midwest, I can assure you that I was right. The problem was in Ohio, and it was not with Republicans, it was with blue, it was with Democrats who would cross to vote Republican. And that's where we had trouble, and I knew they wouldn't like Mitt Romney. And I knew that because I'm from Michigan. Those union guys do not like the suits. It was the absolute worst time to have a suit run for office. That guy in the corner office who doesn't understand the plight of the little guy who's losing his job. It had nothing to do with much else. They didn't like that he was Mormon either, but that was less than the image, okay? At least with Barack Obama, you know, he felt like he understood them. Is it right? No. It's just the way it is. So, and a lot of people disagree with me that. I just feel very confident because I just saw so much data and tried to message to those folks, and it was like hitting a brick wall. So while I feel like every part of my being is for fighting for the principles that we all believe in, when it comes down to it, sitting at home, I feel is abdicating our responsibility. Now there's people who will disagree with me, and you know, I've got, you know, principal friends who voted for what's his face here in Texas, libertarian every time, and you know, it dilutes our power, you know, our ability to create change from within. And one thing that we're seeing with the Tea Party coalition, both in the House and now in the Senate, shame, whoever thought the Senate could actually inspire us every once in a while, but is that we have enough power that it makes things uncomfortable for the leadership in our own party. So that's encouraging. We're making progress. We can't give up. So anyways, thank you so much to Julie for giving me this opportunity. And one more question?
Well, I'm just, well, there probably some more. Hey, you've really got it right about the left and their organization. It is something else. And I'll tell you, it's going to be hard to beat because give credit to conservatives. They are independent and they just don't go along, except there's some of this religious stuff against they do. But you don't realize, y'all don't realize what's going on. How many votes, how well the left is doing. I'm in this, I know it. And I don't like it, particularly myself. But but you're going to have to figure some way to counteract that. And I'm still trying to get my arms around this idea of having 20 Julie Turners. It's all like one.
Okay, there's one more thing I just thought of while you were saying that, that's I feel like is important as far as what they do. A lot of people, and I think this is a pernicious lie, think that once Barack Obama's gone, that the people won't come out to vote, that there will be a lot of Democrats that won't vote. I think it's not true. The reason I think that's not true is because once you've overcome the barrier to go and vote, people are afraid, right? Like I remember the first time I voted, I was so nervous. What if I push the wrong button? What if I vote for the wrong person? Once they overcome it, realize they can do it, it's so much easier to do again. So I think those votes are going to stay. Who we have to win back are the people, the base on our side, who are so distraught and discouraged that we have to encourage them that it will make a difference.
And I gotta say that down there in Harris County, you're right, West Harris County goes, and it's pretty even. They're probably, they've got a full slate of judges for the Democrats, for the Republicans, and they are split so bad with Woodville having this opposition. By the way, at the Pachyderm Club Thursday, they're going to have the candidates for the Republican sheriff, and it's going to be I'll be going. You want to go with me? Of course, Julie won't go anywhere with me. You're down in the parking lot.
I think Julie's a very smart woman.